Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session, which is all about taking talent to new heights at British Airways. My name's Steph Hopper. I'm the Chief Talent Management Officer at Cappfinity, and I guess my career's largely been in three tranches, which I'm sure many of you will recognise. I was in-house for many years, then I freelanced for about 7 years, and then I joined the supplier side and have been at Cappfinity growing the talent management business over the last 8 years. Cappfinity are pioneers in skills-based assessment and development. We're 20 years old. We just had our 20th birthday a few months ago, and we're global. So we're based in the UK, in Australia, and across the US. We work with everyone from school leavers and graduates and early talent right through to the C-suite. And I guess we're known for our innovation, our use of technology, and our passion for data. But most importantly, our long-standing client partnerships. And that's where the lovely Laura from British Airways comes in. Laura.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name's Laura Sheikh, and I look after our talent, performance, and skills strategy at British Airways. I'm not going to introduce British Airways, as I'm sure you're all very familiar with us, and hopefully have had lovely experiences on our flights before. But my role is to make sure that every colleague understands their role to play in creating a better BA, and therefore creating a high-performing culture, but also help them to fulfill their potential and understand their skills and how they can best align to roles within the organisation so that they're really motivated and engaged to perform at their best.
Great. And so, Laura, We've had this question on the slide. Some of you may have been reflecting on it yourselves. But Laura, what was the moment in your career when you felt you were like truly taking off, and what made that happen?
So it was actually earlier in my career at a previous employer. I was on one of their top talent programs. I think we probably all understand how that feels, a little bit of kind of imposter syndrome, being surrounded by colleagues who you think are much more amazing than you. But I think I sat in that room and looked at the person at the front of the room and thought, that's really what I want to do. I want to help people unlock their potential, help them to progress their careers. And I had a complete career pivot that day from working in colleague communications and engagement over into the talent space, and kind of haven't looked back really. But that was, I think, the moment, the light bulb moment for me. And I felt that was then where my career really started to take off in the talent space. What about you, Steph? What was yours?
So for me, it was when I worked in-house, or that's one of the recollections I've got, in a global organisation. And I was lucky enough to be based in Australia, in Sydney, for 5 years. That was definitely a career highlight overall. And I was thinking about like the next steps in my career. And I remember I had some coaching. And I'd moved from London to Sydney, so I had a network in London, but I didn't really have a global network within the organisation. And what came out of the coaching was I needed to look for opportunities to build that strategic network across the organisation. And I was lucky enough to land a secondment where I really was representing Asia and flying all around the world on a particular program. And I sort of look back and I think that was a really good coaching session, because I kept looking at Australia, not looking outside. And my home base stayed as Australia, but I was able to work on that global program. So I guess these are different eras, I've got to be honest. I wish it was the same era, but it's not. But you know, the same result. We both got a platform in order to help us develop our careers. And what we want to do really is share with you how we set out to create those launch pads for Laura's employees at British Airways and what that looked like. So where did it start? And some of you will be aware that you've been given a boarding pass. There are no end to the puns when you have an airline as your client. We've had a lot of fun with it. And I'm afraid there's a few more to come now, folks. So I guess, where did things start? When we first came across Laura and the challenges she was facing with talent management at British Airways. So there was kind of a grounded plane scenario, wasn't there, Laura?
There definitely was. We partnered with Cappfinity straight after COVID, and so luckily our planes were no longer grounded. We were able to fly again, but our colleagues definitely felt like grounded planes. Some of them were taxiing off elsewhere, and we had unwanted attrition. Our attrition had spiked after COVID. I think a lot of colleagues not feeling that really their career had many prospects within the aviation industry with with how badly it was hit by the pandemic. But those colleagues who did stay felt like grounded planes. They were very stuck and stagnant in their roles. There weren't many opportunities for that internal mobility. And so that in itself obviously brings about kind of disengagement and demotivation. So we definitely needed to solve those and increase that internal talent mobility.
And I guess so to us as the partner of British Airways, we could see that we needed to develop a solution that created something for everybody. It wasn't just about top talent, it was about all employees. So everyone needed to see that they could, really unleash their potential and have a career at British Airways, because that wasn't happening for many of them at that moment. So Laura, tell us about the hidden flight paths.
So this is referring to succession planning in the organisation, which was probably quite sporadic and not very robust at all. When I joined, I describe it as a little bit like X Factor style succession planning, where leaders were in a dark room with people's pictures on a wall. But then the outcomes of those conversations kind of never went any further than that room. They definitely weren't shared with colleagues. And so colleagues didn't really understand, not only were they considered top talent, but also what development opportunities were available to them, or what career pathway or flight path that they had kind of open and available to them. So we definitely needed to do some work to make sure that our succession planning and how we were talking about careers with our colleagues was much improved.
And so we needed to really leverage our assessment expertise within Cappfinity and think about how could we help British Airways objectively look at their entire population and really understand in a very objective way, like who potentially had the ability and the potential to develop their career and really help British Airways move the business forward. And then there was a bit of chance seating allocation. I don't really feel that's fair with BA, is it? We don't sort of associate that with them. But in this situation, I think maybe there was a parallel.
Yes, we do try and sit our passengers next to each other, unlike other airlines. But this was referring to our colleagues and our development opportunities. We were probably not investing most heavily in the right people. So we had development opportunities that had started to kind of emerge out of the pandemic, but it did feel a little bit like it was a chance seating allocation on those development programs, all really down to a bit of a line manager lottery, if I'm being honest. Oh, we've got a robot coming to join. What we needed to do was really make sure that we were investing in the right colleagues and making sure that they had a seat on those development programs. And in order to do that, we needed to know who our top talent were, but also we needed some exciting development opportunities to give them a spot on, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it was really important that someone didn't just gain a label, top talent, and it didn't have any meaning for them. They needed to understand what that meant and that they felt like actually British Airways was setting them up for success. So I guess in summary, there were 4 things that for us stood out if we were to reimagine talent management at British Airways. We needed to find something that was scalable for everybody so that everyone walked away with something different. It needed to feel like an objective and transparent and a fair process. And we needed to accelerate and really elevate talent because nobody really knew who they were. So actually, how can we give them a platform if we don't even understand who they are? And then how do we create that platform? And we also knew that these were likely to be individuals who had experienced a lot of different development in their career already. So to try and impress them, we needed to take it up a notch. And that was what we definitely did. So the final destination is where we're going to start, and then we will tell you what we did afterwards. But we're incredibly proud of these results, and I'm talking to the experts in the room here. I mean, this is just happy sheet data, but look at it, it's phenomenal. We were incredibly proud of this. Cohorts went through this, and we knew that they were hard to please. We couldn't assume that someone who was classified as top talent was actually going to think that anything we did was useful to their career development, but they certainly did. And the qualitative data really backed this up as well. There were great stories of individuals who really appreciated the opportunity to sit back and think about their career, and they were actually given the tools to help them do that. And they gained confidence. That came through a lot, actually, was the sort of number of people who said, I felt more confident, I felt I understood myself better, and then I actually feel ready to take the next step. So, this was wonderful, but of course, Holy Grail, isn't it, is business impact. So Laura will take you through that now.
Yes, as a strategy manager, obviously data and business impact is so important to me. I get very excited by it. But obviously we know it's very hard to get, especially in the L&D space, but I'm really glad that we were able to really show the business impact of these programs. So of those colleagues who took part in the High Flyers program, 32% rolled off into a new job about 6 months after the program. Of those 32%, 63% had moved to a larger role, indicating a promotion, which I think in itself shows that talent, internal talent mobility really starting to come back to the business, and something that, as I've said at the start, we were really looking to positively drive. But they don't stop there. As you'll know, we had unwanted attrition coming out of COVID, and so I'm really pleased that our attrition rate of those colleagues who decided to take part in our annual talent review process was considerably lower than that of our population as a whole, at 1.4% compared to 5.6%. We also saw that of those colleagues identified as top talent, this is probably the one I'm most proud about, 0% attrition in that colleague population. So no one left the business after they'd been identified as top talent and gone through our development program, and obviously looked at that a couple of years later. Finally, we halved the percentage of colleagues who wanted to leave the business within 2 years, which I think really shows the kind of positive impact that this program and these initiatives have had on engagement and colleague retention. I think when colleagues realise and recognise that their organisation are investing not only in their development, but also they can see then that the business is taking their career progression seriously, that really helps to retain the right people and to make sure that our colleagues are continually motivated and engaged with their work in the organisation.
And then I guess the icing on the cake for all of us was winning gold at the Learning Awards at the beginning of last year. And, for Laura and her team, it was really recognition of a very brave and bold step that they'd taken to reimagine talent management and to think about how you could line up, I guess, identification of talent, development, and internal mobility. For us at Cappfinity, it was really the power of skills-based talent management and the difference it can make to organisations, but also to individuals. We were all moved by the stories of individuals who really found this a useful platform. And I guess for our collective project team, there was a real pride in the solution that we shaped and delivered, although one of them said she was more excited about meeting Claudia Winkleman, but we'll leave that one there. And I guess, what you're probably thinking now is, how did we reach that point and what was it we did? And so going back to those 4 needs, we'll take you through the 4 main things that we did together.
So I think the first was something that was scalable for all. And this is where Cappfinity's skills discovery came in. So as well as the need to identify our top talent, we also wanted to make sure that there was something for everyone so that all colleagues could better understand their unique skills and their strengths. So we introduced the skills discovery, which is an amazing tool. I love it. It looks at Cappfinity's 80 skills within their skills bank and splits the skills into unrealised and realised strengths, weaknesses and learnt behaviours. There's a really great report at the end which a colleague can use to help them to structure their development with some really great and very actionable nudges. What we did was we encouraged our colleagues to share this report with their manager as part of a mid-year conversation, so that we were coupling not only a conversation about performance but also bringing in development into that conversation, so it felt like a really rounded conversation. And also we have trained internal coaches managers to give coaching debrief sessions based on the skills discovery report. That's one of the things that they love doing the most, because it really helps that colleague to not only kind of feel like they own their own skills, but also understand how to better use them within their jobs. And I think the amount of skills data that we've got from this tool is phenomenal. We have lots of data points that then we can obviously inform other strategies across the business as well. The next tool we used was Cappfinity's STEP tool, and this was part of our wider kind of talent review campaign which we called Grow Your Talent. That was the colleague-facing kind of colleague campaign behind our relaunched talent approach. And as part of Grow Your Talent, not only could you take the skills discovery, which I just spoke about, but you could also choose to take your potential assessment, which was underpinned by Cappfinity's STEP model, which is skills that enable progression. Out of the 80 skills in Cappfinity's skills bank, this assessment looks at the 8 skills that are really indicative of those colleagues who have the potential to move to a larger, more complex role within the near future. It looks at capability, adaptability, and motivation. What we wanted to do is have a more objective and transparent measure for potential, and this absolutely ticked those boxes. But it also ticked the box of colleagues taking ownership of understanding their own potential, rather than it being something that was done to them in those dark rooms, X Factor style that I talked about earlier. Again, this tool has a great report that our colleagues receive afterwards, which again has great developmental nudges and helps you to understand kind of your level of potential on a scale. It also gives colleagues a potential rating, and what we did with that rating was plot it on our BA talent grid along with performance, so that a colleague understands how their performance and their potential contribute to their overall position on the talent grid. This was part of a conversation then, again, that was shared at mid-year with colleagues and line managers discussing this, and that talent grid position really being a way for colleagues to be able to structure their development going forward for the rest of the year. Obviously, that meant we'd mapped a number of colleagues in our top talent box, and that is again where we kind of furthered our partnership with Cappfinity to look at talent development.
So the third thing we needed to do was to really elevate and accelerate the progression of this group who had been identified as top talent. And we needed to give that meaning for them. Otherwise, it was another sort of name on a spreadsheet. I remember that being a problem when I was in-house for many years. So they were invited to a program. It was called the High Flyers program. No need to explain that one. Mm-hmm. And it was designed to really stretch and grow their potential, and reinforced by the high potential accelerators, which are critical for success with top talent. So the journey that they had was, I guess, underpinned by a number of different elements. One was sort of time to reflect and grow in self-insight and really think about actually what skills they wanted to develop and move forward with. The second was skill building. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving them the opportunity, I guess, to sharpen their skill toolkit for the situations that they were going to be facing as they progressed their career. Senior sponsorship was all over it, which I applaud Laura on that, because the number of times, I'm sure those of you who both work in-house and for suppliers, having that senior sponsorship makes all the difference, and having them turn up and actually be present and speaking to these groups of people is nothing short of a miracle when you're actually getting board members turning up time and time again for these cohorts, because they see so much value in connecting with them and understanding their ideas. And the other, I guess, element was we based it around actual challenges that British Airways were facing at the time. So it was a 2-day development centre, which was a mixture of skill building and these challenges that they were working to solve in cross-functional teams. And wrapped around it was career coaching and our virtual reality solution, which I will come to now. So, as I said at the beginning, we knew that we needed to really try and, I guess, reimagine what we were doing from a learning perspective. All of these individuals or participants, they would have experienced a lot of development at different stages in their career already. And so what could we do that was actually a cut above the rest? And I'm just wondering actually, how many people in the room are using virtual reality in your learning and development teams? Great, brilliant, okay. And is that in a sort of simulation way? Yeah, great, okay, brilliant. So I guess what we wanted to do was to create a tool that really challenged the individuals to grow in self-insight. So as opposed to a simulation, what we wanted to do was find a way to integrate it with them understanding themselves better. I'm sure lots of you have heard self-awareness is said to be the meta skill of the 21st century for navigating all these unknown situations that we're facing. And if that's the case, then all of us need to grow in self-insight. And in fact, Tasha Eurich talks about the fact that most of us think we're self-aware. I think it's like, she says 90% of us think we're really self-aware. But actually only 10 to 15% of us are. So whether you agree with Tasha Eurich or not, there's a gap somewhere, isn't there? And most of us probably can do with growing further in that self-insight. So what we did was the participants had their skills assessment, the skills discovery tool that Laura referred to at the beginning, and they had a debrief with a coach, so they had a better understanding and interpretation of their report. And then they went into virtual reality, into a series of abstract environments, and the coach was observing them in those environments. Now, I love a role play. I love a role play. Get me there any day. Love a bit of acting. But let's face it, most of us know, don't we, with role plays, you're going to be asked to do a presentation, influence someone, have a tricky conversation, deliver some bad news. You can sort of vaguely prepare for those, and you can sort of think about what it is I might need to do. The difference here was these abstract scenarios were not anything they could prepare for. And that really means that actually what we've seen is that you really see the true person. And the coach is observing that person, and then they debrief what they notice. So in terms of what's the key, I guess the authentic behavior that comes through when you see people navigating an Egyptian crypt or sorting things on an industrial line in a factory, you're actually seeing different behaviors, but you're seeing the real person. And we know that 95% of us behave completely authentically in VR. I'm sure both of you probably know this from your simulations. So it's incredibly powerful. It's also multi-level, so you're completely immersed when you're in virtual reality, which is why lots of people find it a really useful thing in their development. But actually it's sort of connecting with you on a somatic, a cognitive, an emotional level. It's much deeper. It's a multi-level stimulation. And you can see the spectrum of insights that participant refers to. And then finally, this is the favorite feedback we get from our coaches, is that they feel like VR speeds things up. So they always say it would take 3 times longer to get to the same place that they get to after one VR session with that participant. So basically 3 coaching sessions, because actually you just get to the nub of who that person is super fast. And those aha moments come much more quickly. And those deeper insights really lead to accelerated action afterwards. So yeah, if you'd like to have a try, come to our stand, which is over near the Delegate Lounge. You're very welcome to have a look at those environments and try it out today. So, Laura, do you want to tell us how we're growing our partnership?
Yes, so we are in our 4th year, I think, of working with Cappfinity, and we continue to evolve our programs and our partnership. The first thing is, when we first launched High Flyers, we had 2 different program lengths, so we tried a 3-month and a 6-month. We work in quite a fast-paced environment, so our colleagues definitely preferred the 3-month rather than the 6 months, so everyone now goes through a more intense program that's 3 months long. As Steph just said, VR is amazing. It's one of the favorite, if not the best thing about the program. And so again, we piloted some cohorts without VR, some with. It was obviously a no-brainer that we were going to have VR then going forward for everyone, because the feedback was just incredibly positive. So that is part of the program for every cohort now. We also knew that not everyone could have a one-to-one coaching session with one of our internal coaches on their skills discovery. So we have given lots more support to line managers in how to have those really great coaching style conversations. So we built kind of avatar videos for them to be able to understand and really get to, I suppose, under some of the mechanics of what the skills discovery is trying to show, and the different quadrants, and really understanding kind of how to use that tool to create more actionable development insights for those colleagues. We also, obviously, being top talent is no mean feat, and we definitely needed to do more within the organisation to celebrate these colleagues. It just happens that our cohorts normally finish around Christmas time, so we have put, everyone loves a party, so we've decided to kind of couple it up with a Christmas party for our top talent, but obviously, kind of no jokes aside, like having those, having that time to really network with other colleagues who are identified as top talent, but also to have kind of out of hours time with our senior leaders and our board is also kind of really really developmental for those top talent colleagues. And then I think, thinking more broadly, we knew we had to build longevity into our partnership and into the talent development. And so for those colleagues who were identified kind of time and time again as top talent, we didn't want them to feel like there was nothing else in it for them, or that it was kind of like a once and done. If they'd gone on High Flyers, there wasn't another opportunity for them. So this year we're launching something called the High Flyers Club, a little bit like the BA Executive Club. So colleagues who are identified each year as top talent kind of unlock different experiential learning and development opportunities as you kind of, the more years that you are identified, so that it becomes something that everyone strives for, and it's not just something that you strive for once within your career, but it's how do you keep kind of being invited back to the club. We're also doing more this year in terms of really just showcasing some great career stories. Now that we've built back some of that internal talent mobility within the organisation, is how do we shine a spotlight on those colleagues who are really taking their career into their own hands and kind of having a bit of a kind of play around the organisation, a bit of a kind of squiggly career, so that we can really start to build and drive that culture of career activism. And then finally, we are also on a journey to becoming a skills-based organisation. And so another kind of part of our partnership is working on creating kind of skills frameworks for different areas of the organisation, and really embedding that skills approach, not just within how do we identify talent or how do we develop, but how do we look at kind of skills-based career pathways, skills-based recruitment. And we have worked with Cappfinity and taken the 80 skills as that real kind of foundation for building a skills framework, which has been really powerful for us. So yeah, there's lots that we're working together on, and it's all very exciting, and lots more exciting stuff to come, and hopefully some more awards as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I guess just to bring things to a close, I mentioned Sean's involvement in the programme. You'll all recognise him. I think this was a good moment for everybody who was working on the project at British Airways and at Cappfinity when this quote landed from him, but shows the commitment that they've made to this group of individuals and how important it's been for them. But Laura, you bringing this to a close.
Yeah, I love that we've had such positive feedback from Sean and our board. But I think this quote on screen really kind of cements it for me. I get the absolute pleasure of receiving these in my inbox now. I feel immensely proud of what we've achieved together and what we've launched at British Airways. And I think hopefully our High Flyers programme is helping colleagues to see themselves in a new light, and also is providing them with that take-off moment in their careers as well. So thank you very much. We'll hang around a bit.
Yes.
For some questions.
Yes, we'll be here for a while, and if you want to have a chat, we'll be at the Cappfinity stand over near the Delegate Lounge.
Thank you
very much.